What a day, what a day, what a move off the high. Well, we did it, guys. Almost did it. We survived Q3 earnings season. It wasn't always easy, but we had a great game plan, a great week so far, but we're not done yet, right? Thursday evening, we got one more day left. We get some more big news coming tomorrow. Not so much earnings tomorrow, but we get one of the biggest news reports of the week. And, of course, this huge bloodbath that we saw here on the S&P and the NASDAQ today. Oil also giving us some nice trades. I've got some more great trades setting up for tomorrow. We're not done by any means. We got more news. We got end of the month coming here tomorrow. So we've got more work to do. Don't go bailing on me yet here this week. As always, I'm going to cover all my favorite trades in tonight's video to make sure you get a game plan to make some money on this bloodbath that we saw today on Friday. As always, though, before we jump in and get this party going tonight, a lot we're going to cover in tonight's video. Before we get started, though, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss tomorrow night's video upload. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you enjoyed the video tonight, hit that like button if you guys enjoyed tonight. I appreciate you guys tuning in and supporting this YouTube channel. But enough of the intro, right? We got some more trades to take tomorrow. Friday is right around the corner. And boy, we have a lot of opportunity. Anytime markets move like this in one session, there's always going to be some great opportunity here for tomorrow. Now, obviously, unless you've been living under a rock, right? We had that big, and we talked about this last night. We talked about that rotation off the high. And of course, things definitely accelerated here into the close here today. We had some earnings come out, Intel, Apple, Amazon, all of course reporting earnings as well. So we got a hell of a move lower. It's a big, strong move lower. I'll tell you, there are three ways that we can make money on this bloodbath. And I'll tell you, they're not all short. Whenever you see a big move like this, there are some great reversal opportunities. So if you want a roadmap on the S&P and the NASDAQ, I got some really simple ways to make money in this for tomorrow. You're going to want to stick around for this. And then, of course, over on the oil, I don't think you can find a better buying spot than where we are right now on oil. Get a big move up into a trading range. Oil buyers have to love this location. Now, hold on. Back up the truck, though. There's a couple problems we have. We got some trend lines in the way. We got some stuff to be concerned with. Momentum on the pullback. So not so fast, right? Let's not go load up, right, on the long side here yet. We'll talk about, though, I got some great breakouts, got some great fake out breakouts off this low here. So we have, again, there's no shortage of money-making opportunities for us here tomorrow. Now, speaking of tomorrow, we got some more big news tomorrow. Not as big. Well, no, it is. We got some big stuff tomorrow. Tomorrow, you could argue tomorrow, outside of the earnings reports that we saw this afternoon and on Tuesday afternoon, we have what is well known as the Fed's best gauge of inflation, right? We know about CPI. CPI, of course, is a very popular inflation number that always gets the markets moving. Well, we have the personal income number, what's called the PCE deflator. It's been well known for decades. This is what the Fed watches most when it comes to inflation. And so you have to think everybody is going to be dialed in around that 830 number tomorrow, right? So personal income, employment cost index, and then, of course, later on in the session, we've got that little sleeper, that consumer sentiment number at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So we have plenty of catalysts tomorrow in really all of these markets. Looking at the earnings tomorrow, don't forget, we've now cleared the bulk of the biggest earnings. Like I said in the intro, we survived it. And I'll tell you, we had a really good week this week. If you made money this week in the mess that these earnings caused, give yourself a pat in the back. Not too strong, though, because we got to keep trading tomorrow, right? We're only as good as our next trading day. But if you made money this week during this mess, very, very well done. Good on you. We got some more tomorrow, right? We obviously got some big energy names tomorrow, so we'll definitely talk about that tonight on oil. But at this point, there'll be a little bit next week, but this is the biggest chunk of this. If you survived and make money this week, you're doing a lot of things right. So very, very good job. We had a great week this week in our trade room. We got one more day left, though. Personal income, 8:30. Consumer sentiment at 10 o'clock. I believe we also have, I believe we have the CPIs coming out tomorrow, France, UK. So if you're in Europe, check your calendars for Europe, and I believe we have some CPI numbers, some inflation numbers coming out in Europe in the pre-market, so it could be a pretty busy morning overall. And for a Friday, Fridays are oftentimes a little bit of a smaller window. We don't get that nonstop all day long like we do Monday through Thursday. And so hopefully those news events tomorrow will give us a nice shot in the arm and keep us going here all the way through to the afternoon session. Back to our charts, though, because, after all, the money is made on the charts, right? The news is a great catalyst, but we're going to use the charts to actually find trades and make money. Now, guys, I'm going to cover all my favorite trades on each of these three markets here tonight. Make sure you watch all the way to the end of the video tonight, because you will learn something new all the way to the end. I'll provide different trade ideas, different tactics, different advanced tactics as we go deeper. And I do try to save the best stuff towards the end, so I'll give you a reason to stick around all the way to the finish. Why don't we go the S&P and the SPY, we'll go NASDAQ, QQQ, and we'll save what could be the best stuff for last on the oil with those big earnings reports coming out tomorrow morning. A couple things here. First of all, these are tick charts, guys. Be aware. You can see all the time frames in the upper left-hand corner. They'll all be tick charts here tonight. And also be aware, too, the S&P and the SPY are pretty much interchangeable right now with the NASDAQ and the QQQ. So whatever we talk about on the Emini and the SPY, you can pretty much apply it to the NASDAQ and the QQQs. They're very much interchangeable. So I'll do my best not to repeat myself too much here for us here today. Now, there are three key insights. There are three key insights that are telling us kind of where the best money-making opportunities are going to be here going into the weekend on Friday. The most important clue is this big move, right? It's a very big move down today. Anytime we see a really big move, the first thing we know is first of all, a lot of momentum. And so anytime we see a big move, we know to expect, with all that bearish momentum, we expect for sellers to be looking to sell the bounces and go back and retest that low. Anytime we see a big move in one direction, we know there probably aren't going to be many bears that want to sell low, right? They're going to want to sell relatively high. And so we start to find levels of resistance up overhead to try to basically short the bounces and go back down, basically to retest that low. Now, once we get a retest of that low, this is where one of my favorite reversal opportunities comes from, because now we can start looking for bounces off of that low. So a big move down tells us to stay patient, wait for a deep pullback so we can sell high, right? And then once we get back down to retest that low, look for some bargain hunting down there and buying off of that low. Now, knowing that is the kind of the overall equation here right now. The next clue here is a range breakout. It was a range right at the beginning of the day today. It kind of carried over from yesterday. Anytime we see a range and a big breakout like this, as you can imagine, and again, going along the theme of waiting for a pullback, there's going to be lots of resistance levels that come out of that trading range, which are very, very commonly used for that bounce. So those, of course, are basically the second and third key insights here, right? So we know we get a big move down. We know the big move down says we don't want to chase it because we don't want to sell low. We want to sell high. And then because we had that range, I can use things like, for example, right, that prior low back there, you can imagine everybody would love to get a short off of that area. All the sellers would, right? So we start looking out for, okay, where can I use the underbelly of that range? Where can I find levels of resistance? And I can use that now, right, for entry setups here as we go lower. So in tonight's video, I want to talk about, I mentioned earlier, there are three ways to make money on this. One of them is going to be to sell into this and go back down. There's a few ways to do that. The other one to make money on it is to buy that double bottom reversal, which again, I like that trade. And the third one, what's the third one? Well, the third one is, let's face it, this is an earnings run. It was an earnings run. You can see it get all chopped up. It's very messy on the chart right now. So there's always a chance that this range above us, hey, the buyers might get a Hail Mary here, and we might end up going all the way back up into that trading range. It would be a good idea to prepare for that. Now, of course, here's the $1,000 question for tomorrow. How do you know when that deep pullback is a reversal. And that's what we're going to talk about here first. We'll talk about kind of how that deep pullback should look, how to know when it's a reversal. So we'll start there, and then we'll talk about how to buy the bounce, and we'll talk about everything here as we go deeper into this video. You guys will have a masterclass on big moves here by the time we're done here for today. So we know the general idea of this. The most important thing right now is we're going to want to get up. We're going to want to get up around these highs up here. We want to sell high, right? We want to pop it up. And then what we're hoping for is we're hoping that buyers are going to come in and they're going to try to buy this, right? As I always kind of mention, what happens a lot of times in these really big moves like this is that inexperienced traders, they'll begin to start shorting this thing way too low. And when they get stopped out, the market oftentimes will begin to accelerate, right, as it goes higher. And it will feel like a reversal, right? And that acceleration is not because, well, it's because of buyers, but it's the sellers who get in too early down here, right? They get stopped out, and that's what causes it to accelerate. So the first step is we have to get kind of up around some of these levels of resistance. Now, once we do that, now we know we can hopefully trap in some of the rookies, trap in some of the buyers who are not really used to these big moves like this, and they confuse this as a reversal. I'm going to talk about what a reversal looks like in a moment. The key to this one is you want to start looking for, as it pulls back, I want to see buyers try it once. I want to see buyers try twice. Now, my favorite entry on these kind of deep pullbacks is a trap above that high. That's always kind of my favorite entry. That will be the one all the pros are waiting for here tomorrow. We talked a little bit about this last night on the video. The key, though, is I want to start seeing these buyers try twice. I want to see them try once, come lower, try again. The second best entry on this is to draw a trend line off those lows, bring it up around that high, right? And then look for the signal off what's almost like a hidden channel, right? Coming off that high. So again, I want to get up. I want to get up into some of these levels of resistance. Right when I start seeing this thing begin to accelerate going higher, bingo, that's when you know it's time to look for those buyers to fail. And then what you want to do is you want to think about where their stops are, right? Think about where those buyers, we expect them to be the inexperienced buyers, nice tight stops. Think about now where the stops are. I'll wait for a nice, juicy signal candle, right? We learn about signal candles in our free trading course, and then we'll dump it back down again. Now, once the market starts to make a move lower, ideally, what you want is you want to find a channel by drawing off that low and then up around that high. We don't always get that channel because sometimes this can really drop, right? But my favorite entry will always be a trap, right? That next trap. Now, again, I'm going to warn you on this. Sometimes these things will fall apart, right? Sometimes it'll really begin to accelerate as it goes. And so you don't want to chase after it, right? So to find that channel, bring it up, or simply draw that trend line, find that channel. And then again, I like to look for prior swings and grab that trap. Now, obviously, this could be any of the entry patterns that you guys learn in the free course, right? It could be a trap, it could be a failure, it could be a pullback combination, right? Any of those entry patterns that we talk about. So again, this will be a deep pullback, trapping those buyers with a two-try failure, and then as the market kind of rolls over, we then look for traps, failures, pullbacks, all the same stuff you guys learn in the free trading course. And again, our goal is to go back down to retest that low. Now, speaking of the free course and speaking of these entry patterns, I'm going to be talking a lot about these entry setups, especially with the next example I give you here right now. I know most of you guys and gals have taken the free class. You've learned the failures, the traps, how to find them, where to find them. But listen, if you're here for the first time today, if you haven't had the benefit of learning those yet, what I'll do is I'll put a link up top there for you for our free trading course on the website. Grab that link, get registered for our free course, because the strategy that I teach in that free class will help you get into a lot more winners. It'll make it easy for you to know where the losses will be so you can sit on hands to avoid losses. And most importantly, it'll give you a lot of confidence because it'll give you a roadmap to follow, the same roadmap that we use every day in our trade room. If you're missing the best trades each day right now, or you're taking too many losses, grab that link, take the free course. You're going to love it. It's perfect for someone who wants to make the jump into full-time trading. That way you'll know what a two-try failure into, what we always say, that first channel test. You'll know how to time the entries on that properly. Now, the next question, of course, is how do we know when the pullback is a reversal, right? This is the $1,000 question, and it all has to do with the moving average. This is the 21 moving average. You'll see that being used across all of my charts. It's pretty much the only indicator that you really need to trade price action with me in my trade room. What you want to think about here is whenever we see a big move in one direction, we're going to probably see that deep pullback. Now, what you want to pay attention to is you want to pay attention to how the market grinds around the moving average. For example, we may begin to rise higher here, and we may go a little bit higher, right, up into some of these key levels of resistance. I want you to really pay attention to how the market responds around the moving average, because it's almost like a flag pattern, right? When a flag will go lower and begin to flag higher, it's always pinned right around the 21 moving average. Then we know that if we don't get a good separation off that moving average, we know it's a little bear market. It's looking for that two-try and back down again. What you want to look for, though, is once these buyers begin to jump and really begin to separate off that moving average, this is when you know it's a reversal. So again, imagine now we get that really deep pullback at some point tomorrow. The moving average comes up off this low, right? And what we're doing is we start to see it grind. Okay, this could easily happen tomorrow morning where it kind of grinds and grinds, right? That's not a reversal. Okay, but once they jump off that moving average, bingo, that is a reversal. So let's talk about now how we're going to trade that, right? So as it starts to roll higher, and then all of a sudden, right, it starts to jump going higher here. Now what do we do? Now at this point, where do the buyers want to get to? They're going to want to take out some of these highs up overhead. Move this thing down a little bit here, right? So those key levels overhead. This objective up top here doesn't seem likely right now, but again, I want to make sure you're prepared for this. And again, I will talk about the buy off that low here in a moment as well. So we pop up, we start to grind off the moving average, right? Grind. All of a sudden, something comes out. The Fed says this, Biden says that, I don't know, right? And all of a sudden now we jump, right? And we make that run higher. Now we have what? Now we have that bullish reversal. There's a range above us. The hard part is I can't buy that pullback, right? You can't buy that. Again, it's too much of a bear market at that point. But the minute that they jump and they start to lift off from that moving average, now we go out and we start finding new channels. We start drawing trend lines off the highs. We draw them off the lows, and we look left. We start finding prior swings. And the goal of this will be, once this thing starts to accelerate going higher, and obviously I'm simply illustrating right now, so there will definitely be some adjustments to this tomorrow when we see it in real time. But if we do get that jump going higher, I'm then looking for that pullback, and I want that long off the low of that channel. Now again, my favorite entry technique, which you guys learn about in the free course, is to get underneath prior swings. That's where traps live. But if I can get underneath the moving average, remember, strong move for the buyer, they're going to want to retest that high. Anytime we see a strong move in one direction, they're going to want to retest that level. So if I can get a trap off that low, or if I can get bears right now that are foolish after that reversal to sell off the 21, think about what their stops are, right? I can use their stops as fuel as well, right? So I can easily get that buy off that low. But what's the most important thing? It has to jump off that moving average. So be very careful if the market grinds up that EMA. But once it jumps, right? Once it jumps, now we go into buying a pullback mode. We draw those channels backwards. We find the new channel low. We drill down to our faster time frame, and we time the entries there. You guys will see a lot more examples of that stuff, obviously, in our free trading course. Got a pretty good idea of where the market wants to go, right? Pretty good idea. If the buyers, if they had a small miracle tomorrow, they could probably get all the way back up to retest that high from 2 days ago or from yesterday, right? So, but the reality is though, this range up here is a definite potential for a V bottom, a jump back up, and buying some pullbacks. The tough part about the buy side is you can't really buy it as it's going higher because you're anticipating those bears coming in to squash it. Okay, I've got a pretty good idea now on the S&P here, how to wait for it to go up, how to know when it's reversal, sell it back down. Now, how do I buy off that low? Right? How do I buy off that low? Oh, and by the way, what if we never go higher? What if we chop around all morning tomorrow? What if we don't get that pullback tomorrow? Let's talk about that because that's a pretty likely scenario too. Anytime we see these really big moves like this, we may not get that pullback right away. Like I mentioned earlier, it was very messy down here for obvious reasons, right? We had some of the biggest companies in the world just reported their Q3 earnings, and by the way, they all hit their numbers, but you could definitely feel in their commentary that they're worried about, as Bezos said this afternoon. He said we're preparing for a slow grow environment, right? Even worse. Tim Cook from Apple, Cook, I can't remember his first name, but the CEO from Apple, right? He came out this afternoon and said that supply chains were not the driver for their lower revenue, which just basically tells you that there's no excuses right now. It's just they're having a hard time getting that revenue earning. Anyways, on the NASDAQ here right now, there's really, for the most part, it's the same basic idea, right? We've got that really big move down, right? That big move down. We know we want to sell a bounce, right? Want to get it up, want to rope in some of those buyers and right back down to that low. Same idea as before. This one's a little bit different. You can see there's no really range to use on this one. And so we're using, at this point now, we're using prior lows. Right? We're using prior lows. We're going to be creative here and try to find any level of resistance we can because that's pretty much the only thing we have to work with right now, right? So prior lows, hidden channel. I really like this channel. This channel fits really, really well because you'll notice the anchors on it, right? Anchor, down, up, down. I mean, how many times do we talk about something like that on these videos? So I like that channel. I like the whole area up there inside that battle zone. So we got a pretty good idea already here on the NASDAQ. Everything I just talked about on the S&P can be applied to the NASDAQ here as well. Here's the next question. Okay, let's say now on the NQ or the QQQs, let's say we get that pop up. We end up all the way back now and we take out that low. Now, I'm always telling my students and the members of our trade room to ask those two important questions. How is my momentum and how is my location? If you filter all of your trades through these two questions, for example, the idea is I want to buy off that low, right? We talk about being a buyer off that low. That's a good trade. But how is momentum at that point? What would you say is the momentum at that point on the chart? It's bearish. So we got to be careful just being a buyer. How's location? Location's perfect, right? Because at that point now, the bears will have already taken their profit, right? They'd be getting out. We have to assume the smart money is selling up here, right? They're cashing some big Friday, Ruth's Chris, steak and potato dinner tonight, paychecks at that low, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to need something to give me a bit of a catalyst, right? Going back up again, right? Because again, I don't have a lot of momentum on my side. So what I'll do is I'm going to try to trap in some of those rookies, right? Get the bears coming in off the highs, right? They'll take their profit low. And then as we go to that low here, now think about who's selling down here. These are not experienced traders, right? The bears are not going to be experienced sellers, are not going to sell low into that low, right? So these are rookies. We want to let those rookies dig their own hole, right? Let them dig their own grave, as we say in our trade room, right? Let them dig that hole. And remember, one of the easiest ways to pick a bottom on a big move like this, wait for the retest, wait for signs of exhaustion, which I use for the 2-try rule. 2-try rule is a good visual of signs of exhaustion. And then we need some sort of catalyst, and the catalyst is going to be a stop run, right? That's the easiest way to kind of, as you know, quote unquote, pick the bottom of this market. So retest that low, rope in those bears, and then we look for the proper signal, right? Want to see a nice strong signal candle, right? That will really spook those sellers. And then we try to make our run back up. Now, where do you think that target's going to be? Where do you think more bears would come in again? Yeah, above this high. And so now, once we run back up here, what do you think the next game plan is? It's now an overall bear market into a trading range at this point. And at this point now, we wait for one of two things. We wait for buyers to come in and foolishly try to buy this so we can then sell right back down to, guess where? To those lows, right? Or we wait for the price to pull back to the moving average. And one of my favorite trades is if they can hold that pullback and jump, right, off that moving average. We talked about the value of the jump, right, off the 21 moving average. Remember, if all they do is grind it up, right, that's not a reversal. And then we go what? 1, 2, and then back down. Remember, lower lows, okay? Lower lows on that 2-try failure. Okay, so don't let some higher highs up there. Don't let some higher highs, make you think it's a reversal, right? They have to come back. They have to hold that pullback, and they have to jump right off that moving average. If they can jump off the moving average, then we have a reversal. We have a breakout, and now what I can do is I can go out. I can find a new channel, mark off that high, right? Find a new channel low, drill down, find those prior swings, and the same thing we talked about earlier, right? Start finding those pullbacks, those traps, those strength moves coming off that low, right? So those are a couple scenarios I'm looking at here for tomorrow, right? If we do end up back at that low, we're trapping in the rookie bears who are trying to sell way too low, especially after a big move down like this. I can imagine a lot of bulls are waiting below those lows right now. Let the bears get trapped, right? Once they get trapped, we look for that run back up. Again, wait for the proper signal candle, right? You'll learn more about the entry patterns in that free course. Where do they want to go? They're going to want to go back up and take out that high. As we go back up and take out that high now, moving average comes over, right? Do they hold it and blast and run higher? If they do, that's an easy one. Mark off that high, mark off that low. You got it, right? And then, as we always say, don't miss that first test, right? Don't miss that first test. That's a good trade right there, right? Because now that reversal's in play, strong move for the buyers. They're going to want to retest that level, right? Or if we don't, do we make our way back up? Do the buyers come in? They try once, lower low, try twice, think about stops, right? And we're back down to retest the low again, and we do it all over again, right? It becomes a range. Buy low, sell high, trapping the bears at the lows, trapping the bulls at the highs, and we wait for what? We wait for a jump off the moving average. That's the key, right? That's the key. Now, the last kind of piece of this is, what if it goes sideways down here? Because it is likely. Tomorrow we get some more big news tomorrow. Sometimes what happens is we see such a big move that, the bears, they don't want to get out. They're like, shoot, this might keep going lower, right? They don't want to take profit. And the buyers, because it's such a big move, maybe the buyers don't dare to buy right now. So maybe the market now goes sideways here. If it does go sideways, what do we do then? Really the game plan doesn't really change that much, because ranges, of course, act like magnets. So if you go sideways down here, just stay patient, right? Wait for that pop up. And again, once it begins to accelerate, that's when okay, now it's the right time. Try to rope in some of these buyers and sell back down again. The one thing you got to be kind of careful with on these, okay, and this is why I want to make sure I mention this, is let's say, for example, we go lower first. Right? Let's say tomorrow we go into a range and then we make a fake out, break out the lows, right? We run lower. The bears come in, right? They try once, they try twice. The buyers get a beautiful crown reversal pattern, which is a 2-try failure with a trap low, and they punch it right back up. Now, we talk about this stuff quite a bit on this video newsletter. We talked about one last night, which is what with the clue that I had to be a seller today rather than buying that dip. So we know now it's going to want to take out that pendulum swing, right? The amount below it, the amount above it. Now, not only is that pendulum swing a very important objective now for the buyers, but you have to understand that as the market runs higher, there'll be a lot of bullish momentum here, right? At this point, it will probably have separated off that moving average. And what does that tell tell you? It tells you that if you want to be a seller on this point, you're going to really have to be patient. Let those buyers once, let those buyers twice. Look for those trap highs, right? Remember, when it's really, really bullish as it rotates off that low, you don't want to stand in front of that freight train. So let those buyers prove to us right here if they can hold it and blast. If they can hold it and blast, bingo, it's a reversal. Mark off that high, mark off that low, and buy that first pullback, right? But you cannot assume it's going to be a reversal because, again, in this example right here, we haven't had that really deep pullback yet, right? So you know there'll be some bears waiting up here. I just want to make sure you're not getting too aggressive, right, at selling into this top because, again, if it goes lower first, it'll snap. And again, you want to give those buyers the benefit of the doubt, let them try a couple times, and then we can dump that sucker back down into that trading range. All right. And I don't mind that crown reversal at the low. It's a more advanced pattern, though. Be aware, right? 2 tries there for the bears, right? 1 try for the bears, 2 try for the bears. It's very bearish right now, so you'll want to make sure you buy that trap to make sure you're getting in at the lowest possible price. We've talked a lot about why traps are important when you're going against momentum. We covered a lot of that earlier on in this video, so it'll give you reason to watch all the newsletters here this week, right? So that's going to be that's the game plan here, to buy off the low and trade this thing as a range as we go. If for some reason the market keeps on going lower, which is possible, right? If we keep going lower, the game plan stays the same. Okay, we're still waiting for that deep pullback, right? So it keeps going lower. The game plan is pretty much the exact same. Just be very careful trying to pick bottoms right now if it keeps going lower, because sometimes these things can keep going lower longer than we think they will, right? As the old saying, right? The market can become irrational longer than I can become, right? That I can be solvent, right? So the market can do whatever it wants. Be very careful picking those bottoms right now, because who knows, right? It may keep on grinding. We get some more big news tomorrow from that PCE number at 8:30. Well, that should give us a game plan to make some money no matter what happens tomorrow on the S&P and the NASDAQ. Should we wrap this up tonight on the oil? Don't forget, oil is very much kind of driven by tomorrow's big earnings reports. ExxonMobil, Chevron tomorrow, I believe, at 8:30 Eastern time, or should I say before the open tomorrow, probably around 6:30, 6:45 Eastern time. Now, this is a really nice looking chart right now. It's probably the cleanest looking chart we've seen all week. The first big key insight right now is it's a bull range, right? Bull market up into a trading range. Anytime I have a bull market into a trading range, the first thing I think of is I want to buy off support levels below the range, right? Buy off support levels or buy breakouts, right? And you can see kind of that slingshot idea that I just talked about on the NASDAQ chart, right? So we're buying pullbacks, we're buying at support below the range, and we're buying breakouts above the range, right? Now, great spot to be a buyer right now, because you can see, as I talked about in last night's video, we mentioned this, and I know it was late in the video last night, but we mentioned those prior highs would probably be pretty tasty areas here. And by the way, this is the exact same idea on this oil that I was talking about on the NASDAQ and the S&P, right? The NASDAQ and the S&P are using the prior range lows. The oil is simply using the prior range highs. It's the same idea. It's just flipped, right? Different direction. So it's a great spot to be a buyer. I love how that level, that trend, right? That channel, classic case of one of those pop and grind channels, right? Marking it down at that low. This is a great spot to be a buyer. But there's one buzzkill, right? There's one big problem. And then there's a trend line here. Okay. Now that trend line, that can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And so we'll talk about it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how to make money going higher. I also think, because oil, I'm not sure if you guys noticed this recently, but oil loves to make these head fakes and then kind of resume what it was going to do before, right? So I want to talk about, because I think there's more buyers waiting down there. So I want to talk about that here as well. So let's talk about, and again, we're going to cover all the bases, right? We're almost finished here though. Now, with that trend line, when it comes to that trend line, the thing that I always sort of do is I try to envision that 2-try failure, right? 1 try, 2 try, and I try to get somewhere around that trend line. The best possible scenario here is to have the bears try once off the trend line, right? Go up, have them try a second time, obviously above that trend line, And they want to try to use that trend line, right, as the entry. Okay, now it may not be that clean tomorrow because we got some big news from earnings, but that's the strategy that I use in my trade room. Whenever I have a falling resistance trend line like this, I'm trying to get up over it and use it as support. And what most of the time the best setup will look like is one try for the bears off the trend line, right? Or sometimes it'll be just a little bit above that trend line, right? 1, 2, and you'll grab it from there. But you want to think about like that 2 try and ideally get just either a double bottom off the low of 1, right? Or get a trap like this one. That would really be one of the best scenarios here to buy off of that low. Now, if we don't get that pattern set up, right? Or maybe we do, and then we begin to run higher here. As soon as we start to run higher here now, what you're once again looking for is you're looking for that pop, right? We're already very bullish already. So again, imagine now we go higher here now. Where do the buyers want to go? Well, first of all, they want to go back to retest the high, and they're going to want to take out that pendulum swing. Okay, so what you got to be careful with is like I mentioned before on the NASDAQ, right? Or sorry, on the S&P and the NASDAQ, is that as it goes higher, if it begins to grind, right? It's the grind that's difficult, right? I don't want to buy way up here if it's grinding. But if I can get this sucker, right? If we can get this thing to pop up, pull back to that moving average, and think about the blast, right? If I can get that blast, if I can get a really strong blast going higher, remember, anytime we see a real strong move like that, we're expecting what? A pullback and a retest of that level. Now, again, the key is how the price reacts to the moving average, okay? Does it separate off it? Like back here, right? See how it separates off the moving average right there, right? See how it kind of begins a bit messy, right? Grinds up a little bit, but then see how it blasts? That separation is what makes this pullback a no-brainer, right? It makes it a no-brainer because you know there's so much momentum, the odds are almost guaranteed they retest the high, right? And then like I mentioned before, if they get that reversal off the high, where are they going to want to go? They're going to want to go right back down to that level. This is the exact same thing we just talked about on the NASDAQ. Again, it's just flipped. Right? On the NASDAQ, it was bearish. On this one, it's bullish. So it's no surprise here right now. We got a lot of buyers coming in that love to buy this. We'll see what happens overnight, obviously. Right? So think about now as it pops going higher. And then again from there, I'm going out. I'm finding my channel. Right? Drawing off the highs. Finding that low. I'm finding those prior swings. And I'm getting that pullback. Right? I'm getting that pullback as we go. Again, if we get that jump is going to tell you right away, the next time it pulls back to that channel low, bam, that'll be a nice easy, should be a pretty easy winner going back up at the very least to retest that high. Where do they want to go though? Where's the next big level overhead? The next big level overhead is all the way at 92.63. It looks like a pretty big spot, but it's not that big. We're at 88 right now, so what? It's pretty much 89 right now, so it's not a huge move. It's definitely possible, but that's the breakout situation you're going to be looking at here as we go. The last one here, right? The last one we'll think about is what if they do get that roll going lower? Right? If they do, if we go lower here, let's not forget about where we are right now, right? I talk about this a lot in my trade room. We always talk about making sure we look at what's called the 2-day directional bias. So imagine now, right? If I go lower here, you can just assume that there'll be more buyers waiting down here. Now the challenge, of course, will be, because we're so bullish here in the short term, the challenge will be if it does roll lower, what is it? It's a lot of momentum for the bears. Here are the two patterns I'll be looking for here if we go lower. If we do take off the downside, the first one will be that crown reversal, right? Bears try once, bears try twice, grab that trap. Why the trap? Well, because we don't want to sell high. We don't want to buy high. We want to buy low, right? I want to buy low going back up. So again, if we see a strong move down, the bears are going to want to retest that low. While they're trying to retest that low, let them try once, higher high, let them try twice, grab that trap low, and then back up right into that range as we go here. A lot of times what happens though is you'll get stuff like this, where it'll make that run lower. It's a very strong move. The bears will come over. They'll sell that, right? They'll retest that low, right? So strong move down. Again, anytime we see a strong move, expect a retest, at least anticipate a retest. Once they get that retest, now, just like on that NASDAQ reversal, trap in those rookies. 1, 2, think about where the stops are now. Wait for that nice signal candle, right, and punch it back up, going higher here. Now, at this point, your job gets pretty easy now because now we got that big range overhead, right? The bears just got fooled off the low, and now we can go out. Remember, this again will jump and separate off the moving average. You'll find that channel off the high, find the trend line off the high, find that channel off the low, right? And again, I'm simplifying things right now to keep it simple here, but some of my favorite entries here will be off the low of that channel. Could be a trap, could be a failure, pullback combination, strength trade, going ripping back up into that trading range. Okay, do you see the difference though on this, right? As we go lower the first time, it's a crown reversal. Okay, because again, the strength of that move, you're not going to want to simply buy it, right? Because it goes lower so strong, right? It'll want to retest that low. So I have to use that crown reversal to kind of pick the bottom, right? We go lower, the bears once, the bears twice, trap low, and back up, right? So it's that type of pattern on the first move lower. But then once they retest that low, then we start thinking about, okay, now I've got the bears did what they want to do. Now let's look for that long, trap in the rookies. I'm sorry, that's so confusing here right now. Too many drawings on the chart. But now trap in the rookies over here, right, and use those stops. Exactly like we talked about earlier on the NASDAQ, the reversal off the low. All right, guys, so that's the trick here, at least I think so, until something changes tomorrow, right? And again, we get some big news tomorrow, so this may all get blown up in front of my eyes tomorrow. We'll see when the earnings come out tomorrow. But as always, right, that's why we have a trade room. You know, we have our trade room in place because, you know, I do my best every evening to anticipate what's going to happen. But between earnings reports and news reports and OPEC and the Fed and the ECB and everything going on right now, sometimes crazy things happen in the overnight, and we have to kind of, you know, pick up the pieces and put together a new game plan the following morning. Tomorrow morning, every morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time, I'll see you tomorrow morning in our trade room, 8 a.m. Eastern time. We run it back and do it again. We've had a fantastic week so far. We got one more day left. If you're tired of missing winning trades each day, or if you're taking too many losses, if you're making a lot of mental mistakes right now, our trade room is a great place to be to learn and trade along with me every day. I'll put all the membership links. I would recommend, though, if you're here for the first time today, take the free trading course, right? Learn the basic strategy. Get that going for you, and then that way you'll be up to speed to trade with us in our trade room every morning at 8 o'clock Eastern time. If you have any questions or you have trouble getting into the free course, the fastest way to get help is to call the office or send me an email or use our live chat there as well. Or you can always drop questions, of course, in the comment section below, but I admittedly don't get to those comments as quick as I would like to. I'm a busy guy these days, unfortunately. Right, life's pretty busy. So call the office, use live chat, send me an email. That's the easiest way to get my attention. I'd be happy to help with any questions that you might have on this. But I'll tell you, great job this week. Great job this week, right? If you made money this crazy earnings week, very well done. Let's not give it all back tomorrow. Let's follow the game plan for tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in. World Series tomorrow, right? Go Phillies, go Phillies. I'm excited. I can't wait for the World Series here. Who you got? Let me know in the comment section below. If you got any questions, hit me up in the comment section as well. And I'll see you guys, if not tomorrow morning, we'll see you guys on Monday morning or Monday afternoon. We'll run it back and we'll do it again on Monday. All right, guys, have a great weekend. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. As always, be well, be nice to each other, and be here next time. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.